Hello and welcome to Meet Your Neighbor, our local show about artists and authors in the Lincoln Way area. My name is Kate Hall and I am very excited to introduce our featured guest today, Gina Linko, who is a young adult author. Thanks for joining us, Gina.
Thank you for having me.
So, you published several young adult novels. What drew you to writing for teenagers?
I think that the most important thing is that during your teenage years, there's so much happening. It's such a formative time. It's an exciting time, and kids are coming into their own. There are so many decisions to be made, and I think that's what really drew me to writing for teens, because there's so much going on. So many tumultuous events and
a lot of excitement.
Exactly. Yes, definitely.
And so now you've written, we actually have a couple copies of your book. We have Flutter and Indigo.
Yes.
So what can you tell me about the books that you've written?
Well, Flutter is, they're both, science fiction-y, sort of science fiction light, but speculative. But Flutter is about a girl who, ever since she can remember, has had seizures, and they're kind of different than traditional seizures, and she has scientists studying her and things because she knows that they're not just seizures. She knows that they're more than that, and she calls them her loops, where she time travels. And the book is really her coming into her own and figuring out exactly what these loops are. So, and then Indigo is, in the same vein, science fiction, but Indigo is about a young girl who has just experienced a terrible loss, and what she knows about herself is that she has the power to kill with her touch. And again, it's about both sort of things. It's like coming into understanding her power, as well as accepting, the loss that she's had and grief and moving on and things like that.
So dealing with some fairly complex issues, these aren't just light and fluffy, let's go shopping at the mall.
Right. They are not. So
and they have, as you mentioned, they have kind of a science fiction magical air to them. Mm-hmm. So why do you like writing books that have that touch of magic in them?
Well, I think, going back to when I was a teacher, I taught junior high science and language arts. I've always loved science, loved to read different things about it, love the X-Files. That's what I always talk about when people ask me about my books, because I think I like that line where science knows and can explain a lot, but there's that line where you kind of step into the supernatural and things that seem almost possible but not quite. I like that line, and to sort of play with it, and I think
smudge
that's
it a bit.
Exactly, and I think that's where my books sort of straddle that line.
Well, having read both Flutter and Indigo, it seems to me as though there is that kind of wow, there's that magic element, but it seems like this could really happen.
I love that you're saying that.
It's it's almost there. It's almost like
right.
I could walk down the street and meet someone who has, these abilities. And so
right. That's what I'm shooting for, to make it believable enough. And it's not all muddled in, all of the answers and everything. It's not like hard science fiction, but I am shooting for that, wow, that might possibly happen. So you sort of have to suspend your disbelief for a little bit. But I think that, there's enough science in there that you can do that as long as you're, willing to
well, it's just extending it just that one or two steps beyond what we already know about the world.
Right.
Which is, I think, what makes it so believable and so fun. Which begs the question, how do you come up with the ideas for your books?
That's a good question. There are always a lot of things just sort of coming together to make an idea. And I always tell kids or students that want to write, and they say, well, I really want to write, but I don't have any ideas. And I say, well, I think there's this common theme or common idea that writers sort of sit and wait for inspiration to hit like a lightning bolt, when I don't think that's true at all. If you want to write, you're seeking out your ideas and you're looking, you're reading, different cool science websites and all these kind of fringe journals and kinds of things, because you're looking for ideas that strike you. And for me, it's always about a couple of things coming together to make an idea of a story arc. And maybe it's the idea of losing someone, and the idea of, what if a seizure was more than a seizure, and you put them all together, and it gives you that little spark of an idea, and you start with that, and it sort of comes together as you start writing.
So kind of a melting pot where you get
Absolutely.
little bits of inspiration that you meld together into some fabulous novels.
Oh, you're so nice. Thank you.
So obviously these are fabulous, but what is your favorite teen novel?
I have a lot. It's very hard to come
Pick
up with
just one.
Yeah. Right now, if I had to pick it, it would be The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. I mean, it's just so good. There's nothing quite like like that out there, and he's amazing
And very
writer.
different.
Very different.
From what you have written, which
Absolutely.
goes to show that you can have lots of different tastes. And
Exactly. I read everything. I mean, I'm always reading stuff, but yeah, I love that book. So teens should read that. I feel like I'm always looking for like that short list to recommend. Like you have to read this book, and that's definitely one of them. So.
Well, I will back that, because having read that book as well, it is absolutely
It's
fabulous. So you've talked about how not just if you just sit down, you don't just sit and just write and it's all easy and it just flows from you.
Right.
So what would you say is the most challenging part of being a writer?
I love the process of writing. I love thinking about it. I spend a lot of time like mapping things out ahead of time, and the actual writing is really fun for me, but revision is difficult. When it's done, I just want to be like,
But surely once you're done, it's perfect, right?
Exactly, of course, yes. I don't never have to revise over and over and over again. But I mean, I always do tell students that, the difference between an okay book or paper and a really good one is that you sat down and revised. So revision, revision, revision. So. Yeah.
And so what advice would you give to young authors that are looking to either start writing short stories, novels, or just dipping their toe in?
I think it's cliche, but it's super true, is that you just have to read, read, read. And start reading everything, and then if you have a certain genre or, type of thing that you you think you're going to write, you need to read everything so that you can take books from the library and you can say, well,
we do have one or two books here.
You do, yes. And you'd be able to tell the difference between, really excellent writing and just okay writing. When you can start to pick that out yourself, then you're understanding, things that are cliche and things that are not as good as they could be. And, then you're ready to really jump into your own writing. But I don't think you can, and I mean, I always tell kids and students, you should always be writing, always write, but you have to read. You have to understand and be able to discriminate between the excellent and the just good.
So kind of similar, when you say to just continue writing, to what they say, read 15 minutes every day, write 15 minutes every day. So if you're reading and writing for 15 minutes each every day, you're going to get all of that knowledge that's going to help you become really good at your craft.
Yes.
So now, I love looking at covers of books. And I know they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but I mean, I think we all do to a certain extent. So how do you come up with the covers and the titles of your book?
Well, I don't have much to do with that, but there are some good stories with the titles and covers of my books. First of all, Flutter, when it was just my direction, was called The Dollar Cabin, which if you've read it, it makes a little sense. Yeah. So, but agents and editors and publishers, they have their own ideas, and I'm not very good at titles. So Flutter is the title that they came up with, which I love. And when it was time for covers, there's a good story with this cover. The art director at Random House that was coming up with cover ideas was looking through, like, I think it's DeviantArt, like some of these websites that, you know, students and people post their art. And this was a photograph that a college student had taken of a friend of hers just in a photo session for school. And it so captures like the idea of flutter, which refers to Emery, the lead character's eyes, you know, fluttering when she's about to have a seizure or time travel. And it captured it so well that the art director purchased this photo from just a college student that was not professional at all to use for the cover. And of course, you know, they doctored it in terms of, you know, Emery's redheaded and things like that. But the original photo was just a young person. So I like to think that the cover for Flutter, which is written for young adults, was made by a young adult. And I mean, even one step further, when it came time to put together the book trailer for Flutter, I contacted and her name's escaping me, of course, but I contacted the young lady who did the photographs, and she got her friend, and they shot a bunch of beautiful footage for the book trailer, which we used in putting that together. And I think it was really fun for them, and it was fun for me too. So that's that cover. And the other covers, you know, a year later after a hardback comes out, the paperback comes out, and they were talking about changing Flutter's cover. And this had always been an idea of mine with the EEG, sort of like the brain scan following Emery when she's at the hospital. And they took that idea and ran with it. Of course, I didn't have the idea for this or anything. So that, I feel like I did have a little say-so in this. And Indigo was, again, I think it was designed to sort of flatter, I always say these are the sisters, to flatter Flutter, but I didn't really have much to say about Indigo, but I love it. So
excellent. Well, do you have any other books that you're currently working on?
I do have one that is on submission now, so we shall see. That's called The Before, and it's about...
Possibly that could change, though, as we just learned.
It most likely will, most likely. And it's about a young girl that has always known that she's had a previous life, and her previous life was during the turn of the 20th century in Grasse, France, and she was a perfume maker. And the book itself is really about how her new life, her current life, and her previous life are intertwining, and some mysteries occur because of that. So that's my new one.
That sounds very exciting. Well, hopefully we will soon see it, and people will be able to check it out from the library.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, is there anywhere that people can go to learn more about you and all of the books that you've written?
Sure. My website is ginalinko.com, and on there you can see the trailers, which I'm proud of, and read about, you know, more of my inspirations for the books and just my general rambling on my blog. And then, of course, you can get the books at any bookstore or Amazon, but you should do indie. Like Anderson's always carries them, and
of course, here at the library you can always
copies.
Check out the books here at the library, which is always a great way to get some new titles. So, well, Gina, thank you so much for coming and talking with us. I hope that everyone will go out and check out Gina's books. I can personally vouch that they are wonderful and exciting and fabulous. And if you have some artistic ability or are an author or would be interested in being featured on Meet Your Neighbor, please give us a call and let us know.